team. I think that's a bit of a hyperbole from him, but he definitely has watched me grow up in the business, and he and I have a pretty cool bond because of it. Just because, again, he was a rookie coach when I was a rookie beat writer, and he was just fiery. I do remember a couple. I think he once threw my car keys. So back in, it was like you know how in baseball you kind of hang out in the manager's office.
Yep.
You don't do that in hockey.
Right.
The only coaches that I've done that with in hockey, I remember in San Jose, I sat with my feet up in Daryl Sutter's office once, or things like that.
I did Hitchcock's office in Dallas once.
Yeah. I mean, Hitch allows it and things like that. But so we're in the at Gold Coast Ice Arena, the old Pompano Beach, Florida Panthers practice facility, just a horrific place. And it was the Florida Panthers' first practice facility. And so we used to interview Doug in his office after every practice. And I remember I put my car keys on his desk, and Doug's desk, and I was leaning against the wall, and it's a bunch of us in there, 6 or 7 of us writers or TV people, and we're interviewing Doug and his thing. And I asked a question that pissed him off. I took my car keys and he threw them at me. So, man. So even at 21, 22, I was just a little know-it-all prick. So anyway.
Usually we cut out cuss words on this one. I think I want Brandon to make that one louder when you say it. From Kyler Vasferet, who shows up the shows too, I believe. This is a question he probably can't answer, but why can't the Wild figure out how to muster a shot on the power play?
I don't know, man. It's so frustrating just watching those first 3 power plays last night. It starts with the face-off loss, but honestly, they were getting in the zone. They're just they're too cute, and yeah, it was frustrating to watch last night. There's no doubt about it. It's crazy. I really don't have an answer for you, but it's been a common denominator with a lot of the personnel on the Wild's power plays for years.
From our friend MJ, also known as Mary, she said that some people were worried that Granlund might pass to the wrong team the last couple of games, but she said, does Walls still get ribbed by Bruno for that same kind of trickery?
Yeah. No, I'm the one that usually ribs Walls on that one. But what Mary is talking about is in the first game between Colorado and Walls was going in on a breakaway or 2-on-1, and Bruno was the trailer, because Bruno is always the trailer with his speed. And so what he did is he just yelled, Wallsy, and instinctually they played together for a long time. Wallsy dropped a pass to Bruno, and Bruno turned the other way for an odd man rush, and Wallsy was pissed.
Yep.
Yeah, he was not happy. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
A few more Twitter questions. Thanks to all our listeners. Again, use the promo code hockey with a capital H to get 10% off Bite Squad orders all week during the high school hockey tournament through Sunday. From Kevin O, with hints at off-season transactions, what do you see coming to the Wild this off-season?
Well, I don't think it'll be a center. I really don't. I think that they're going to, they'll probably want to upgrade, maybe get one defenseman. And, my guess is that they're going to go try to get, a scoring winger. I mean, that's what this team still lacks. Obviously they got up-and-comers, hopefully, in Donato and Fiala, and maybe Cunnin, Greenway, Eriksson Ek, but they still would, they could use a quality goal scorer, and potentially one with a right shot. And, as one of the Twitter followers, alluded to, I do think that they have an imbalanced lineup right now, and they would love to get right shot guys, and we'll see if they have the ability to do that. Obviously, Mark Stone's gone. But there's guys like Wade and Simmons out there, and you can go cheap and up and coming too. In terms of youth, maybe a Donskoy. You can go a Venerad and Joe Pavelski if he's available. He's somebody that. It's another reason why I would be interested if I was Paul Fenton to maybe grease some wheels and sign Brad Hunt, because Brad has the same agent as Joe Pavelski. So get on that agent's good side right off the hop here.
Wallace asked about Nylander or Kapanen.
That's the other option that I will say that Paul has the ability to do, but it would cost probably for like a Kapanen, it would cost Jared Spurgeon, and I don't know if he wants to do that at all. But I will say that this is the summer that you can maybe take advantage of some teams here, and a team like Toronto that's going to have to sign Martyr. And, I don't know if you saw Brad Marchand's troll job on the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he tweeted out a highlight of Mitch Marner, and he said this guy's going to cost $12 million this offseason, which I just thought was hilarious. But that all of a sudden, takes guys like Kapanen and says, hey, they might have to trade him. And so that's, to me, where you could potentially go, and there's a lot of teams in those situations. So the problem is that he just traded a lot of his tradable assets in Coyle, Granlund, and Zucker. So Freudian slip there, and Niederreiter. So, what can you, if you're going to acquire some of these guys, could it cost you potentially prospects? And that's something that I think also Paul Fenton would like to avoid.
All right, a couple more Twitter questions. Let's buzz through them. Chris Reinert's, why is Jared Spurgeon not using the shootout, and how often do they practice shootout attempts?
They don't practice it nearly enough. I don't know. I watch these shootout when they do the shootout drills, and I haven't seen that Spurgeon is overly great, but he is somebody that has some skill and some speed and could be pretty elusive out there. We saw Ryan Ellis out there in each of the last two shootouts against Minnesota.
Mike Swanger asked you to rank the RFAs in order of signing importance. I think we can get more in depth in that in a future show.
Yeah, especially I'd rather have it in my if you're talking wild RFAs, I mean,
yes.
There's Eriksson Ek, there's Donato, and Fiala. I mean, these guys are probably going to get very prove me bridge deals most likely, so it won't be overly expensive. So I'd be shocked if all of a sudden he throws them crazy long-term deals of big money right now. And again, on Aberg, to me, I would consider not even giving him a qualifying offer and thus making him an unrestricted free agent. And then Hunt and Bitetto are unrestricted free agents, and it's up to Fenton if he'd want to even bring him back.
Got it. Ann Landis asked about re-signing Hunt. I know you want him back, right?
Yeah, he's a super guy. I will say I've talked to the agents of both Bitetto and Hunt, and they haven't started talking to Paul Fenton about new deals.
Okay. Noobs asked any word on how Granny is fitting in Nashville?
Not really. I mean, it's early. Yesterday was his first home game. I didn't think he was very good at all. And obviously he was totally invisible, and obviously had the big penalty there in overtime.
Mitch Perzicelli asked about Stahl, but you already got into a lot of Stahl stuff, so we'll stick to that. From Splurse James, is the overplaying of Dubnyk a factor in his propensity to give up soft goals at crucial junctures of several games?
Well, it's funny. I mean, sometimes it's the opposite. When he's on a roll and then they give him a day off, then it's like all of a sudden he's like yesterday. I mean, he was 5-0 in his last 5 starts with 1.59 goals against average and a 950 save percentage. He was on fire. And now in hindsight, you almost think they should have come back with him against Nashville at home, because, that's when he seems to get really weird. And I don't know. I didn't like the third goal either. I know that Aberg looks awful there, but to me, that's a puck that needs to be stopped. He was way deep in his net, and he let a defenseman go forehand, backhand on him. I just didn't like the goal. And then obviously the Arvidsson goal was terrible. And, sometimes with Doobie, he had the same. Remember on February 1st, he gave up that really bad goal between the wickets in Dallas that lost in the game late. I can't remember. I think it was Sagan that scored it, and he said after the game, and honestly, when you look at the replay, I see what he's talking about, but he's like, I don't even know what I could have done different. I would do the same thing again. And it's a little scary last night when he gives up that goal between the arms, and he's like, I wouldn't do anything different. I'd do that same thing again. Then you're like, all right, well, try to do something different. So.
Let's do one more. Unless you have a final thought pre-made, I will use Nick Johnson's question for the final thought.
Yeah, let's do Nick Johnson.
Okay, let's do that. Let's thank again Twill and the Edina Galleria, fixologyrepair.com, Tony Hoagley, your State Farm agent based in Champlin, also financial services. And remember, hockey is the promo code to use at Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, or on the Bite Squad app to get 10% off this week in honor of the state high school hockey tournament. From Nick Johnson, what do you think about the New York Islander fan base and their behavior toward Tavares in the Toronto game?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like it. I do think fans have the right to do whatever they want, but But, and I did like Arthur Staple, the Athletics tweet that said, that Maple Leaf fans who are being all, high and mighty right now, if Tavares didn't go there, they would never have let him forget it. So, fans have the right to do whatever they want to do, but the guy is not a snake. This is part of the CBA. Free agency is just a part of life. And, again, and their whole reasoning is just so dumb that, well, we didn't get anything for him. Well, then that's on your GM.
Right.
That is on your GM to open his eyes and make a move. Again, if Anders Lee or Brock Nelson leave this summer, is it on them? Lou chose not to trade him. Right. So if the Islanders get nothing for Anders Lee and Anders goes and plays somewhere else, is that his fault? He's just doing what's right. And that's why, to me, it's so ridiculously naive of Nashville Predators fans to treat Suter the way that he does. One, the best thing that ever happened to the Predators was Suter leaving, because it opened up the ton of cap space to allow them to go and improve their team and make Yossi the captain of the team eventually. But the other thing is, if you're a Predator fan, this is the naivety of their fan base. If you're a Predator fan, the person you should be pissed at is Shea Weber. Shea is a restricted free agent, signed a deal with Philadelphia that completely blew their salary structure out of whack. So while Ryan Suter was an unrestricted free agent and had the right to talk to every team in the league, Shea, while his rights were actually belonged to Nashville, was willing to leave there on his own volition. And, luckily, amazingly, whether it was Paul Fenton or whether it was David Poyle in concert with whatever way they did it, they figured out a way to get rid of Weber and bring in Subban. But, it's like just drives me crazy sometimes the way that fan bases think. But all fans are like this. Like, fans are going crazy about the Ryan Johansson shootout move, which I get. I don't like it. But remember, Ryan Johansson was almost a Minnesota Wild if they were willing to give up Dumbo or Brodin, and they weren't. And he was eventually traded for Seth Jones. And if Ryan Johansson was on Minnesota taking those shootout moves that he's been doing the last couple nights, Wild fans would absolutely love him. So, that's just the way that fans are. You see things through fan glasses. I mean, there's no, I don't mind that. But the vitriol that went to Tavares, to me, bordered on scary too. Throwing things at him, the constant booing. And Islander fans, I've been in that arena when I was a kid. I remember beer being thrown on players, and I was at a Bruins Islander game, and I still remember as a child watching beer being tossed at Ray Bourque on the ice. So, that's kind of the Islander fan base.
And you said fans can do whatever they want. Fans can't do whatever they want. There's a line you cross where it's assault. It's criminal behavior.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I thought that it just was bordering on absurd and had to be very unnerving for Tavares. And I actually feel bad for the guy. I mean, the guy gave his heart and soul to captain that organization, did love them, but he became a free agent and decided to leave. And that's life. Do you think? I mean, every day these players wake up and they don't know if they're going to be traded somewhere else. There's no loyalty inside organizations to certain players. So why should players always sit there and say, "Well, I gotta just forever be the team that drafted me"? Look, I'll give you an example. Jared Spurgeon in a year and a half, or maybe even this summer, is going to be approached with a really nice contract from the Minnesota Wild. And he's going to have to decide if he wants to commit really the rest of his career to Minnesota. Well, maybe Jared Spurgeon says, you know what, I'd like to go play there. Or maybe Jared Spurgeon deep down says, you know what, I just don't see a future here of winning a Stanley Cup here, and now here I possibly do. And if he leaves here, when he comes back to Minnesota, Minnesota fans should give him all the admiration that he deserves, because he's earned this right to become a free agent, and it's his right to decide whether or not he wants to commit here long term or go somewhere else. It's a scary freaking thought of him playing for another team. But let me just tell you, it is no shoo-in that he's going to be re-signed here. There's a very good chance that he potentially goes somewhere else. And if he goes somewhere else, that's his prerogative. How about that for a final thought?
That's a pretty good final thought. Cause mass panic in the streets. We like that kind of final thought. Get people fired up, Michael. Now go back to your hotel man cave, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks to Michael. Thanks to Brandon Morton. We will talk to you next week.